Why society rejects deep thinkers. The hidden truth. Have you ever felt like the more you understand, the more people seem to tune you out? That expressing deep, thoughtful ideas often leads to awkward silences or resistance. If so, you're not alone. Society has always struggled with deep thinkers, not because they're wrong, but because they see what others refuse to acknowledge. This isn't a new phenomenon. History is filled with brilliant minds, philosophers, scientists, and visionaries who were silenced, ridiculed, or ignored. From Socrates, who was sentenced to death for questioning the status quo, to Nikola Tesla, whose revolutionary ideas were dismissed in favor of more marketable, less radical innovations. Their intelligence wasn't the problem. Their ability to challenge comfort and complacency was. But why does society react this way? What is it about deep thinking that makes people uncomfortable? The mirror effect. Why intelligence feels like an attack. Psychology offers a fascinating explanation. Intelligence, unlike other forms of superiority, triggers an internal defense mechanism. When we meet someone physically stronger, we might admire them. When we encounter someone wealthy, we might feel envy, but we don't necessarily feel threatened on a personal level. However, intelligence is different. Intelligence reflects back our own intellectual limitations. It forces us to confront the possibility that we may not know as much as we think we do. This is what psychologists call the mirror effect. When someone's deep insights make others feel exposed, inadequate, or even inferior, they respond with resistance rather than curiosity. Instead of seeking to learn, people tend to dismiss, ridicule, or attack. Why? Because accepting a deeper truth often requires dismantling long-held beliefs, and that is one of the hardest things for the human brain to do. The threat to identity. Why intelligence is rejected. Unlike wealth or physical strength, intelligence directly challenges personal identity. Most people define themselves by their opinions, beliefs, and understanding of the world. When a deep thinker questions these foundations, it feels less like an intellectual exercise and more like a personal attack. This is why intellectual conversations often trigger defensive reactions. Instead of evaluating new ideas, people default to emotional responses. They perceive intelligence not as an opportunity for growth, but as a force that threatens their sense of self. This explains why deep thinkers frequently experience isolation. Not because they lack social skills, but because their insights disrupt the comfortable illusion of certainty that most people prefer to live with. The science of resistance. Why we reject the deep thinkers. Modern neuroscience supports this idea. Studies have shown that when people encounter information that contradicts their beliefs, the amygdala, part of the brain responsible for processing threats, becomes highly active. In other words, deep thinking can trigger the same fight or flight response as facing physical danger. But why does intelligence feel like a threat at a biological level? The answer lies in our evolutionary past. Early humans survived by belonging to a tribe. Acceptance meant safety, while rejection meant vulnerability or death. Our brains evolved to prioritize social harmony over intellectual discovery. A person who introduced disruptive ideas risked destabilizing the group, making them a potential outcast. This tribal instinct still exists today. Intelligence that challenges group norms is seen as a threat, leading to rejection rather than appreciation. This is why those who think deeply often struggle to find an audience, especially in group settings where social status matters more than truth. The social bias against intelligence. Psychologists have identified several cognitive biases that explain why intelligence is often met with resistance. The Dunning-Kruger effect. People with limited knowledge tend to overestimate their understanding, while highly intelligent individuals often doubt themselves. This leads to friction. Those who know little believe they know more than they do, while deep thinkers who understand the complexity of things are often ignored. Status quo. bias. Humans naturally prefer familiar ideas over new, challenging concepts. Intelligence often introduces uncomfortable truths, which people instinctively resist. The backfire effect. When confronted with information that contradicts their beliefs, people don't change their minds. Instead, they double down on their existing views, making intellectual discussions even harder. Why charisma? Wins over intelligence society has always valued confidence over intelligence. People gravitate toward those who speak with certainty, even if their ideas are shallow or misleading. This explains why charismatic figures, politicians, influencers, and motivational speakers gain massive followings, while philosophers and intellectuals struggle for recognition. History proves this over and over. The most influential figures are not always the most intelligent, but the most persuasive. This is why deep thinkers often find themselves isolated. Intellectual depth is difficult to package into sound bites, while simplistic, emotionally appealing ideas spread effortlessly. The curse of the deep thinker. Understanding the Schopenhauer perspective. Philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer argued that intelligence is not a blessing, but a burden. While most people are driven by the will to live, seeking comfort, pleasure, and stability, highly intelligent individuals develop a will to truth. This difference creates a painful disconnect. Deep thinkers see the world as it is, rather than as they wish it to be. This clarity often leads to alienation, because most people are not searching for truth. They are searching for reassurance. Schopenhauer believed that the smarter a person is, the more they will struggle with society. Not because they lack social skills, but because their ability to see beyond illusions makes them incompatible with the majority. The reality of living as a deep thinker. So, what does all of this mean for deep thinkers today? It means understanding that rejection is not a reflection of your worth, but a reaction to the discomfort your intelligence creates. It means recognizing that society resists deep thinking, not because it lacks value, but because it disrupts the status quo. This doesn't mean deep thinkers should stop sharing their ideas. Instead, it means adapting to the reality that intelligence, when expressed without consideration for social resistance, will often be met with rejection. The path forward. How deep thinkers can thrive. Find like-minded individuals. Instead of seeking validation from the masses, connect with those who value depth and intellectual honesty. Learn to communicate effectively. Complexity is not the enemy, but presentation matters. Simplify without losing depth. Embrace solitude when necessary. Many great minds found solace in isolation, using it as a space for deeper thought rather than a punishment. Recognize social dynamics. Intelligence is powerful, but understanding human psychology is equally important for meaningful discussions. Stay true to your quest for truth. Intelligence may be isolating, but it is also the source of the most profound insights, innovations, and discoveries. Conclusion. The paradox of intelligent society fears what it does not understand. Deep thinkers challenge illusions, disrupt comfort, and expose truths that many would rather ignore. Despite the